Shalom and welcome. I'm Myles Weiss. I'm glad to see you again. Our guest is Avi Lipkin, former IDF spokesman, expert on Islam, and the founder of the Bible Bloc Party, which we're going to hear about later. That is the party of Jews and Christians in the Knesset of Israel. It's going to be a formidable force in the future because Jews and Christians have a shared destiny, and Avi is one of the first ones to understand that. He's speaking with us today about issues in the Middle East, and especially right now, we want to start with the Arab Spring. What mishigas, what craziness. We don't understand it at all in America. Can you please explain the Arab Spring to our viewers?
Yes, indeed. Firstly, I wanted to say that former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, who has aspirations to become your future president, was attacking Israel from the first day in 2009, and Israel's settlements, Jerusalem, Judea and Samaria, Palestinian state, and all these other things. And, you know, the fact that millions of Christians are being slaughtered around the world over the last few decades, never a word. But if Israel builds 100 homes in one of the neighborhoods of Jerusalem, the whole world jumps on Israel and the UN jumps on Israel. And I was watching her like a hawk. In February of 2011, a Tunisian fruit vendor was pushing his cart, and fruits, vegetables, and he gets stopped by a policeman shaking him down, wants a bribe. He says, "Where's your license?" He says, "I don't have a license. I never had a license, nor will I ever have a license. I'm a poor fruit, vegetable vendor." He got arrested. They confiscated his cart, his produce, and his scales. And then in the jail, a Muslim policewoman slaps him in the face, which is the ultimate insult to a Muslim man. Right. So he's lost his income. He's lost his honor. He goes out of when he's released from the police station, pours gasoline all over himself, and he self-immolates. Now, the Tunisians are very influenced by France. Tunisians, the Algerians, the Moroccans, they all have cell phones. And they all have Facebook. And they all have Twitter. And they have all the same social networking that Westerners have. Right. And everybody was taking pictures of this Muslim man self-immolating, which was a great tragedy. Right. This was the beginning of the Arab Spring. And within minutes, all of Tunisia was up in flames. Wow. Because this spread it went viral.
Yes.
And then it went viral in Libya.
Yep.
And you had a civil war and Gaddafi was overthrown. And then Mubarak was overthrown. And Saleh in Yemen was overthrown. And then the war in Syria began. And I want you to know, I've always said this. I said this in the churches too. I love the Muslims. They're great people. They're human beings like anyone else. But they have a crazy system. And their crazy system has been punishing them. If you're a Muslim and you're a good person and you live under Islam, you're going to be punished by that system. The only system that works is the Judeo-Christian Western civilization system, capitalist system. And so what happened was, all of a sudden, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton didn't know what to do. Right. Because she couldn't grab a hold of Israel because God reshuffled the deck. And God always reshuffles the deck. Many are the thoughts of man or woman, but it is God's will that happens. Right. This is in Proverbs. Right. There's also another saying I learned in the churches, but it's also in Proverbs, also in the New Testament, that the foolishness of the Lord is greater than the wisdom of man. And so, to talk about the Arab Spring, we have to understand that here in America, if you're a Democrat or if you're a Republican, and you come to power 4 years, 8 years, and then the other side comes back. Right. Does one side kill the other side?
Not yet.
It's almost like a baseball game.
Right.
In the Middle East, it's different. In the Middle East, when you fall from power, you're killed. Right. When you're in power, you kill. Right. And what we saw with Saddam Hussein, he represented 20% of the population, which were Arab Sunnis. America brought democracy, so what happened? Came the dictatorship of the Shiites, of the 60%. Yep. What's in Syria? You have 10% of the population, which is Shiite Alawite, and they're allied with the Christians, 10%, which gives them 20%. But 80% of the country is Sunni. Right. And that's what the war is about. The U.S. is supporting democracy by supporting the 80%. The problem is, when the 80% comes to power, it wipes out the 20%. Right. So democracy in the Middle East means killing the other side when you come to power.
It's really a misunderstanding. I think that our founders in this country understood that democracy was innately related to the Judeo-Christian ethic and morality. You can't just export it to another worldview. It doesn't work that way. It's a different paradigm. That's what Avi is trying to address.
In fact, my wife, Rachel, was monitoring Saudi broadcasts, and they were saying, democracy? The Americans want democracy over our dead bodies.
Literally.
Democracy is a Judeo-Christian value. It will never be in Islam.
That's right. We have to understand that Islam is equal to a theocracy, and it is always the party in power that rules over the others. Tell us a little bit more about the power struggle between the Sunnis and the Shiites.
Okay, this is a very, very important subject which Americans really are clueless. I do have a CD and a DVD on my website which covers that.
Tell us the website.
The website, well, my pen name is Victor Mordecai. The website is half of Victor, half of Mordecai. So it'd be vicmord.com. And we offer CDs and DVDs. Many of them were done with Chuck Missler's ministry. So my teachings are kosher for Christians.
There you go. Jews and Christians working together. How do you like that?
The story of the Shiite-Sunni schism happened 1,400 years ago. It is basically a war over control of the turf. In other words, after the death of Muhammad, the first caliph, Abu Bakr, the names are not important. There were three caliphs who caliph means replacement.
Replacement leader, correct?
Replacement leader after the death of their prophet.
Right.
So you have Abu Bakr, Othman, and Omar. And these were the lieutenants. They were the close confidants of Muhammad. They were together in battles. They were injured. I mean, they stood by Muhammad always. They were the caliphs. The fourth caliph is a blood relative. It's his first cousin, Ali. Ali was the son of Abu Talib, the uncle who raised Muhammad. Muhammad was an orphan. And what happened, as typical in the Middle East, cousins marry. So Muhammad's cousin, Ali, marries his daughter, Fatima. Fatima, you heard the name. And then they had a dynasty. Now there's a dynasty. And among the names that you hear are Hassan and Hussein.
Wow.
You know, your president, his name is Mubarak Hussein Obama. Now, if your name is Hussein, you're a Muslim. It's like, I don't know if you remember in baseball, when I was young in the 60s, there was a player, Jesus Alou.
Sure.
And the older people remember him. Spanish people give the names Jesus to their kids. Right. Jesus, Maria, all this.
Right.
You won't find a Jew giving the name Jesus to his children.
No.
Okay. So you will not find a Christian giving the name of Hussein to his son.
Right.
Hussein is exclusively an Islamic name, and Obama's a Muslim. We can talk about that later if you want.
I don't even think our viewers know that his full name is Mubarak. Remember the Egyptian president?
Yeah.
We just know him as Barak.
There is no Barak in Arabic. It's Mubarak.
Baraka is blessing.
Bracha, it's in Hebrew and in Arabic. Yeah. Correct. So anyway, the story goes like this. The followers of the family of Muhammad, the dynasty, the followers of Ali, the fourth caliph, decide to replace the followers of the first three caliphs. And it's like here in America, if they offer you a package to retire. I mean, you might not want to retire. You might not be happy with what they're offering you, but they're pushing you out. You got to retire. You have no choice. They make you an offer you can't refuse.
Exactly.
In the Middle East, when you're offered a retirement package, usually your head is chopped off inside of the package. And so they started to massacre the followers of the first three caliphs. So the followers of the first three caliphs say, "No way, Jose," and they started killing the followers of the fourth caliph,
Ali.
That's the Shiite-Sunni schism.
Wow.
And for 1,400 years, they've been slaughtering each other. And there is no forgiveness in Islam. There will never be peace between the Sunnis and the Shiites. And what I predict is going to happen is the Saudis are dictating to America, and America is dictating to Israel. Israel will have to attack Iran with the backing of the West, with the quiet support of the Saudis and the Jordanians and others. America will go into Syria, intervene, and you've gotten rid of the two most important Shiite governments.
So you believe that the Sunnis will be the ascendant faction in Islam?
Yes. In Islam today, 85% of the Muslims are Sunnis. 15% are Shiites. The problem is that the Shiites are concentrated in the Shiite crescent, which is Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, also Turkey.
Yes.
Turkey's 31% Shiite. And if you remember, the Turks backed off. The Turks are going to participate in a war against Syria, and all of a sudden the Turks, you don't hear about them anymore.
Right.
Why don't you hear about them? Because the Iranians sent agents into Turkey to stir up the Shiite Alawites. They're 31%, and the Kurds are 25%. So actually the Turks themselves are a minority. They're the biggest minority, but they're not a majority of the Turkish people. And the Kurds are working basically, and I pray that this happens. I think it's going to be biblical. The Kurds are going to break away from Turkey, form Kurdistan. They're going to join up with the Kurdistan of Iraq. the Kurds of Syria are going to join the Kurds of Iraq and Turkey, and the Kurds of Iran are going to break away and join. It's going to be a massive country called Kurdistan. There are 20 million of them. I mean, why do the Palestinians deserve 4 countries? You know, Jordan, the West Bank, Gaza, and within Israel, and the Kurds, who are 20 million, cannot have their own country.
Right.
So there's a double standard, and I have a belief that Deuteronomy 11 brings us to the Euphrates, and the Kurds will be on the other side of the Euphrates. And we're going to be good neighbors with them. Yeah, Kurds are our buddies. Lots of Israelis.
So
Iraqi
you're
Kurdistan.
hearing this, folks, that the biblical boundaries of Israel are much bigger than what we are currently being forced to fight over. And, in fact, that if the local people were allowed to have their proper places, the Jews would be in that area, the Kurds would be across the border, and the Palestinians would be absorbed into Jordan and the other countries where they came from? Or how would that work?
Okay, what I see happening indeed, and it's not the work of Israel, and it's not the work of the Jews, and it's not the work of the Christians. God is using the Shiite Sunni civil war to depopulate these countries. And remember, I think the writing is on the wall that the Sunnis eventually will win in Syria, which I don't know if it's a good thing because the Christians are going to be massacred. That's a horrible thing.
Right.
And Lebanon is never considered a separate country by the Syrians. So this overflow of Sunni invasion will overflow into Lebanon. And you've heard of Hezbollah, the great enemy. Hezbollah will be massacred by the Turks and by the Sunnis. The Turks will have the Hezbollah for breakfast. And so Lebanon is going to get purged of the Christians, God forbid.
Are the Turks that much stronger than we always hear the threat of Hezbollah? We hear because they're threatening Israel from the north. They've rearmed way beyond what they had before.
Hezbollah is 40,000. The Turkish army is 500,000.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, I will say something else, and this is a big surprise. I'm going to pull a wild card out now. You know, I'm changing the subject completely, but we're going to come back.
Okay.
President Obama supports the entry of Turkey into the European Union.
Correct.
Which, normal economics, if the Europeans are 350 million people and Turkey joins them, 70 million Turks, then Europe goes from 350 to 420 million people. And that gives them an economic power. Okay, now what's the problem? Now we're going to talk about...
Changes the number of Muslims in the European Union.
Bravo. So what it means is today Europe is 300 million Christians, 50 million Muslims, which we think you can deal with. If Turkey joins, it's another 70 million. So it's not 50 million, it's 120 million Muslims. But what's the catch? We spoke about this before the show. A Jew who wants to move to Israel immediately gets Israeli citizenship. So the Turks did the same thing with the 200 million Turkomans in the 6 republics that broke away from the Soviet Union. You got 200 million Turkomans.
Right.
Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan,
Right,
Tajikistan, Azerbaijan.
Right.
These people can move to Turkey, automatically get Turkish passports, and then they can move into the European Union because they got the Turkey's part of the European Union. So what it means is Turkey is not 70 million.
Right.
Turkey is 270 million.
Right.
Plus 50 million already in Europe is 320 million, and the Christians are outnumbered 320 to 300. Europe overnight becomes a Muslim continent.
Right. Wow. Are you hearing this? Are you hearing this? This is happening in our day. It's already in motion. I remember 5 years ago hearing from Walid Shobat. He said, watch Turkey, watch Turkey, watch Turkey. You're hearing this again from Avi, who predicted these things 10 years ago and sooner. The reality is that we're seeing the demographics of the world change based on this Sunni-Shiite battle, based on the shifting of populations, and things are going on behind the scenes that will affect us in America. Tell us about the refugees coming here.
Okay, that's the other side of the coin. By the way, Walid, I love Walid. Walid is forgive me, he's my alter ego. I see him, he's the greatest guy. Now, and I agree with him, with everything he says. The flip side of the coin is like this. Now, if you don't believe in God, and I say that the people in Washington don't believe in God, they believe in mammon. What did Jesus say? You can't serve the Lord and serve mammon. You have to choose. Washington is controlled by mammon and by oil. Therefore,
Oil or Bible?
Yeah,
One or the other.
Yeah. Now, if the mentality in the world economics is such that immigration is good for economics, and it's true, then if the Europeans go from 350 to 420 million Muslims, and then followed by 200 million Muslims from all these countries in Central Asia, then their population becomes 520 million Muslims. You know, so 620 million Muslims and Europeans as a unit. So what happens to America? America has a problem because America's only 300 million people. So America needs more population.
Whoa.
So the NAFTA agreements, the idea of the Amero, of the unity of Canada, U.S., and Mexico makes sense economically because Mexico is 150 million, Canadians are 50 million, that's 200 million. 200 million with the 300 million America gives you 500,000. So now if this happens, you outnumber Europe. But America still needs another 100 million. Who are those 100 million going to be? They're going to be the Muslims.
Wow.
So now I explain how this is going to happen. In my second book, Christian Revival for Israel's Survival, I document how the Jews in America have decreased. The Jews now should have been 10, 15 million in America. They're only down to 5.5 million because Jews do not reproduce. I explained this. Jews are too busy with the career. They don't reproduce. The Muslims started coming into this country big time after the fall of the Shah of Iran. The Shah fell in 1979. Jimmy Carter turned your ally number one into your enemy number one. Jimmy Carter stabbed your best Muslim friend in the back, the Shah of Iran.
Right.
And as a result, 9 million Iranians who were your allies in the Shah's administration had to flee or be beheaded. So they came here.
Right.
So immediately you have now 9 million Shiite Iranians who are good people.
Yes.
And they're wonderful people. The Shiites are 9 million. The Jews are 5-6 million. So the Jews are as of 79, the Jews are no longer number 2 in America. After the Christians, they're number 3.
Right.
The Arab Immigrant Association claims 7 million members, so 7 million and 9 million Shiites is 16 million. Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam is another 4 million. That's 20 million.
Different groups.
All different groups of Muslims, but they all agree that Allah is God.
Correct.
And that the Jew and the Christian must be terminated. That's 20 million. And I'm telling you, I believe there are a lot more Muslims in America than 20 million. But it's all done by stealth. Nobody talks about it. Now, the Arab Spring, the collapse of all these countries is going to lead to a mass exodus. And like I said before in the previous program, Ezekiel 28, 29 says that the Egyptians will be scattered to the four corners of the earth. This never happened in history. Egypt will be empty. I believe Syria will be empty. All these countries are going to empty out. And that's why Israel's borders are going to expand as the Jews and Christians come home. Because what's going to happen is the Muslims will come here. They're going to kill the Jews and the Christians. Because that's what Allah commands them to do. Jesus Christ, according to Islam, is a Muslim.
Correct.
And he's going to kill the Jews on Saturday and the Christians on Sunday.
Right.
So what's going to happen is the Jews then and their Christian spouses and their children are going to flee back to Israel. That's why I'm forming the Judeo-Christian Party, because we will be the biggest party in the Knesset when 5, 10, 15 million Jews and Christians move back.
I hope you're hearing this. You're getting a history lesson, a prophetic view of the future, and really you're going to understand the future of America and Israel. When we meet again, we're going to speak more about what's happening now and what we're going to see happening in the future. If you want to read Avi's books, you can get them from Levitt.com. You can get Is Fanatic Islam a Global Threat from Levitt.com. You can go to vicmore.com and get his other books. They're all up to the minute or forward-looking about what's happening in our world today. So we'll see you soon. We're glad to be able to bring you these messages. We'll be back.